Roger, thanks for dropping by. Kitchen time. You have to excuse the noise in the background. That's the grow room heater heating the lounge and the kitchen. It's not the cheapest form of heating once you get into a larger space like this, but with the boiler out of action for a while, I'm not using any gas. So, you know, swings and roundabouts, all that sort of stuff. But the boiler part's been ordered. It's just a matter of waiting for it, fitting it, and crossing my fingers and hoping it all works. Right, first one I want to do is this little Masdevallia piece. Now, this has got a couple of reasonable roots on it, not a lot, and this is going to take a while to establish itself, quite honestly. And it's just a matter of, you know, keeping it in a suitable environment and keeping it hydrated while it sets itself up and starts some root activity. I'm not sure I'm going to be able to hold this upright. So it's got very few roots, if you know what I mean, so they're shallow. There's no sort of depth to them to get down in the pot. And hopefully it will stand up. And there again it might not. Don't want to cover the base up completely, obviously, but then I also want it to be reasonably upright. And I'll put this in a place in the grow room where I can pour water into it without picking the pot up. Yeah, that way I won't be wobbling it all the time. It's not incredibly firm, but it's not bad. It's just a matter of keeping that in the humid atmosphere, keeping the media wet, and not wobbling it about too much. There's no point in trying to stake that, really. Trying to put a stake in a pot that size, the stake won't stay still, so it won't do much. So there's not a lot of point, really. And that's Masdevallia Brassocattleya. Apparently it has fragrant flowers, and they're yellow and white, sort of. That's a long way off seeing flowers on it, trust me. I mean, that could take 6 months to establish a root system. You know, it's quite a long way off. Now, the other one I want to do in a pot like this is the Bulbophyllum. Now, these are notoriously shallow rooted, but having just had a look at the roots on this one, they're quite long. So I'm going to take some of that cropping out. Normally I would turn this pot into a very shallow pot, but I think in this particular case the roots aren't that bad. Now, this is a long rhizome on this one, but it has a new growth coming out at the centre and its activity is at either end. So I'm just going to fold that round like that so that the 2 leads are on one side of the pot and the little new growth has got some room to grow. So something like that, I think, will do that. And then that new growth, which is its current activity rather than its previous activity, has got some room to expand. And hopefully the media will hold everything in place. It's not a bad little root system on this. I mean, it's a relatively young plant, I would think, but it's difficult to tell with Bulbophyllums because you can have a little set of pseudo bulbs and you think, oh, that's not a bad sized plant, and then the next one it grows is twice the size of the previous ones because the previous ones were young. That's just the way they work. But hopefully this is a reasonably small one. And this is one I've had my eye on. You know, when I had a look round at what Bulbophyllums were for sale, as soon as I saw the blooms on this one, I thought, I could live with that one. Those are nice coloured blooms, they're not stinky. So I had my eye on this one, but I've had no intentions of building up a Bulbophyllum collection. I was given quite a few by Archie, some of which I may well pass on to others, but they're okay where they are in the meantime. They're not in my way. That's the priority. Plants that I want to get rid of are ones that are in my way for one reason or another, if you see what I mean. In other words, they take up space that I would prefer was being used by something else. Right, and that's Bulbophyllum tingabarinum, or tingabarinum, however you want to say it. I doubt if that will focus. Okay, so I've got my two leads off centre, but not up against the pot, and the new growth with plenty of room to expand. And I've potted it relatively low in there, the idea being that new growths will hit the side of the pot and move round it rather than climb over the top. That's the theory. You can't always guarantee they'll do as they're told. Right, that's those two out of the way. Don't need that stuff anymore. Now this is the okay, the biggie. Now these roots have been in to soak all night, and you can see that some of them are still white. That doesn't mean they're dead. There's very few brown roots on this, and I'm not going to disturb the plant. This chucks out new growths from all over the place, this plant. It grows like mad once it gets a hold. There are some new root tips in places, and I don't want them damaged or disturbed. So it's going in the pot as it is. There are actually some dead canes in there, which I will take out eventually. Things like this, yeah. I mean, that is a dead cane, that serves no purpose. But to get in there and disturb it now just seems pointless. They're not in the way. It's not like they're going to make it hang over the edge of the pot or something. Now this pot's quite a large one. It's got a huge hole in the bottom, so I'm using a bit of my bonsai stuff. Bonsai pots have always got many and large drainage holes, and all your media falls out the bottom if you don't cover them. So normally on a bonsai tree that would get wired in place, but on here it can just be placed over the top, and then the initial bit of bark can be placed on gently. And once the bark's on it, it won't move. If the roots get in through it and push it out of the way to get out of the hole in the bottom, that's not a big deal, because by then the media will also have roots all grabbing hold of it, so it won't matter too much. And this is going to be a little bit of a pain to get in here, because it's got such a dense root system. There's bound to be air pockets. There's bound to be bits where I don't get media. But it's a Cattleya type. It's not the end of the world. I mean, half of these roots are going to climb out over the pot anyway and become aerial roots. So the fact that some of them might be aerial roots inside the pot doesn't really matter that much. But what I'm doing is putting the media down the side and then pushing it with my finger towards the centre of the pot. And hopefully that will fill a lot of the gaps. And then we'll turn it around and do it the other side. And I'm probably going to run out of media halfway through. But I can, you know, as I'm pushing this towards the centre of the pot, it's going down, which means it must be getting in there. It's got to be, and it's got to be going somewhere. It's not just disappearing into the psychic world of media. Yeah, that's tucking in there quite nicely now. I don't need it in tight. You know, I don't need this jammed in solid, especially as there are some new roots showing. It will soon establish itself without too much help, I suspect. Now, when I first thought about putting it in this pot, I thought about potting it low in the pot, hoping that any new growths that sort of try and escape would be confined in the pot for a while. And then I thought, it's not how it grows. It grows in all flipping directions. And given half a chance, it'll even push pseudobulbs downwards. They can find a place to escape. So I thought, well, let's just let it do its own thing. If it wants to climb out the edge of the pot, then let it do it. As long as it's got a good base inside the pot. Right, let's try to do a little bit of jamming this time. the root system will take it. No, under normal circumstances I do not press hard down into a root system. But this time I want that like that. Firm in the pot. And just about the right amount of media too. As I say, I don't need to take this right up to the base. Some aerial roots, some room for air to get round the top of the plant, not a big deal. And I'll see how that media goes as I water over several, periods. It may well sink down a bit and I can top it up. But that's more than enough to hold it in place at the moment, and there's more than enough roots down in that media to find something to grab hold of. Now this particular pot is softer clay than my other types of holy clay pots, the ones that I've got from Rachel. So this one, when I water it, the pot's going to grab quite a lot of that water. Now I'll have to be careful with that, because when the roots start grabbing hold of this, as the pot dries out, and it will dry out faster than my other pots, it is possible it can desiccate the roots. So this one might need watering a little bit more often than the others. So again, all I need to do is make sure it's at the front where I can see it and not forget it, because it may need a more frequent routine than the others. I'm just tucking a few bits of media in some of these gaps near the top that I can physically get at, and that I think will do. As I say, plenty of air around the roots, that's why I don't mind a few bits with no media. The roots will soon fill them up and grab hold of the media that's touching any roots down below. So that'll do. That's a BC, Brassocattleya. And a lot of the Brassavolas have retained their name. Actually it's a Brassocattleya, it's a BL. I thought that was a BC. I'm going to double check. I've got a feeling that Maikai is a BC, Brassocattleya. Now that could be because it once was Brassocattleya and the Lalia got reclassified. So that's a noisy heater kicking on again. I'll double check that, but the important bit is the second part of the name. The first bit, if I get it right now, 2 weeks time, it'll probably change again. So I don't worry too much in the Cattleya Alliance. They keep chopping and changing, making up new names that you've never heard of before, like the Avanagara apple blossom. It's not called that anymore, it's called something entirely different, something I can't even pronounce from memory, but I'm not changing my label, it stays as it is. That's a nice plant. And as I say, there's signs of new roots, and in theory they are coming out from the base of the active leads, like here. New roots coming out here, so that's probably the latest lead on that little bit of the plant, and there will be others. So now all I've got to do, yeah, there's two up the centre there with new roots coming out. So as I said, this is liable to shoot out in all directions. There's even one here near the back of the plant. So we'll give that a good soak. Now under normal circumstances with a Cattleya type, I'd give that a couple of days to recover its roots from possible damage from unpotting it or unmounting it, but in this case I don't need to. It's actually been out of its pot for a while, yeah? So I'll give that a soak, get that bark introduced to some water, because when it's new the water just runs straight off it. It just doesn't absorb much at all, and it takes a while before it what I call activates. It starts getting to the point where it's acting normally and actually holding some water. Not a lot, but some. So that's those three then. 3 new little plants. I'm going to find some space for those. And I want those all in a place where I can get at them quickly. So they're not going to get buried at the back of shelves or anything, because they're all in new media. They will all dry fast. So I need to water them more often than the ones they will eventually live with. Okay, so that's those 3 done. See you next time.